said, my name is Ashley Williams. I'm the US head of community at DIY website platform Wix.com. And at Wix, we're dedicated to empowering anyone to build a website without writing a single line of code. So our community is crucial. And we've been providing resources and tools to empower our community further since the very beginning of the company. And as David said, I've actually been with the company for a very long time, at least in the tech world. I've been there for 5 years, which in the tech world sometimes sounds like a century, where for me it feels like it's gone by in a blip. And when I started at Wix, we only had a few million users. And our main community initiative was, as David mentioned, the Wix Lounge. And the Wix Lounge still exists today here in New York. It's a free co-working and event space for our Wix users. But over the years, as the company has grown, we've grown to 85 million users all over the world, and we've also expanded our community activities to meetups and partnerships and training activations all over the US and the world, from New York to Moscow and beyond. So let's get to it. I think often this is what community managers think when they think about proving the value of their community. Raise your hand if you felt this way at some point. You're trying to prove it to your company, trying to prove your value. And it's interesting, Evan actually posted on the CMX Facebook group earlier this week, and he said, what are you nervous about the summit? And I thought to myself, I'm a little bit nervous about presenting on one of the scarier topics for our community. But no worries, we're going to get through it. I'm going to provide you with some great tools today. But before I do that, I think it's very important that I give a couple of disclaimers. First of all, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. And I've noticed this has come up a couple times today. Every company is different. Every community is different. You have to find the thing that works for you. I'm going to give you some very general overview ideas and inspirations, but you have to find the thing that works for your community. Also, there's no magic bullet. There's no wizard-like Google Chrome plugin that you can download that'll just give you all the answers. Now, while there's tools that can help you collect data and help you report out, the actual determining of the value, you have to do yourself. And finally, experiment. Never get stagnant. Communities and companies change, so constantly be innovating and reevaluating what your value is and how you can show it. When I'm thinking about the idea of proving the value of community, the first thing I tend to think about is quality over quantity. And let me explain what I mean about that. When I was first approached by David and Evan about giving this talk, it was originally going to be titled Proving the ROI of Community. And while I think it's possible, I think it's very possible to attribute a dollar value to some of the things that you're doing, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to prove your value. And the reason why I say that is because when I started at Wix, as I mentioned, the company was much smaller, and the brand was less familiar. So the numbers that I was reporting out were very impressive. But as the company grew and the marketing budget expanded and our marketing efforts expanded, the numbers I was reporting became a little bit less impressive. Community was never going to compare to a Super Bowl commercial. It just wasn't, as far as traffic numbers and conversion numbers. So I started thinking to myself, what could I do to show that the numbers are more meaningful? And I realized that community has a superpower that other forms of marketing don't necessarily have, and that's engagement. So I set out to show that our numbers were more powerful through engagement. The first experiment I did to show this was very simple. When we worked with partners generally, when we were just focused on traffic, we gave our partners a tracking link, and the call to action was visit Wix.com. And then through that tracking link, we gathered all kinds of great data from clicks, conversions, how many people built websites, how many people went premium. It was great. But most of the people who clicked on those tracking links only did that. They clicked. They never did anything else for the most part. So I made an experiment. I changed the call to action to sign up for a Wix workshop. So now every single Monday, we offer a 2-hour workshop where at the end of the workshop, you've built a Wix website, and then you're given a premium coupon code for 50% off that expires in a week. We started doing these workshops in New York, and then through brand ambassadors and other programming, we're doing them all over the country as well. And what we found was, at the end of this workshop, every single person had a Wix website, and most of them went premium. So we realized that 10,000 clicks aren't as valuable as 1,000 people who've meaningfully engaged with the product. So it's still technically traffic, but it's much higher quality traffic. So as I start to talk about engagement, I wanted to share a quote from the founder of Patagonia. He said, "We want customers who need our clothing, not just desire it." Engagement has so many values, and I've put a laundry list up here, but I think the #1 bottom line value is that engaged users spend more money. They engage with your product more, and they spend more money with your product. A great example is actually at Wix. We found that the majority of the revenue that we're making at the company are from users that build more than one premium website. So the people that aren't just building it isn't thousands and thousands of people building a site that are making us money, although that's a big part of it. It's actually the people that are building multiple websites that are super engaged with the product. So we've learned over and over again that the more engagement the user has, the more money they'll spend, and the more it affects the bottom line of the company. And then there's other amazing ways that supports the company, from use cases for PR to brand ambassadors and trainers that allow us to scale our offline activities, brand affinity, thought leadership, so many good things. However, I want to start and focus on the beginning of the funnel. So before you get to marketing, before you get to PR, the core of any company generally is the product. So I set out a couple years ago to find a way to support product through community. And I was actually inspired by CMX. So I had to give them a shout out. I read a blog post that they had posted about Salesforce and how their community team was supporting product. And I was very much inspired. And this happened to coincide with us doing massive usability testing in San Francisco. And the product teams came to me and they said, "Hey, Ashley, your team talks to the users every day. We have a problem. We're trying to find users for our usability testing, and we're emailing and cold calling thousands and thousands of users, and no one's getting back to us. We're having a very low conversion rate. On a good day, it's 25%, but for the most part, it could be as bad as 2% response rate. How can we get these users in?" So I said, let's experiment. Why don't we see if we can use the community to make this process more effective and efficient? So we had 2 user meetups that were going to be leading up to this usability testing. And in the RSVP form, I asked, would you be willing to give Wix feedback? So we took those 2 months of user meetups and the people that said yes, and we emailed and reached out to those people, and we had an over 50% response rate. It was wildly successful, and the usability testing was so much easier and more effective because of it. So then I took that principle back to New York when I moved back to New York with our Wix Lounge space. Every 4 months, we have 100 users who we put through an amazing program, and we sit with them face-to-face every day in our office. So I had a theory that this meetup experiment would be even more effective if we used our space. So the next time a group came to do usability testing, we reached out to our users, and we created something called the Wix Lounge Product Doc. I reached out to all the heads of product in the company, and I said, what do you want to know about our users? And then we sat down with 100 members in our space, and we asked them those questions, put them all in one big Google Doc, shared it with all the product teams. So now, when e-commerce wants to come and interview people who use Wix stores, all they have to do is sort the doc, reach out to those users, and come to the space to meet with them, where they're sitting every day anyways. And then we found an over 90% response rate. Because as I mentioned, they're sitting physically in the space. So it's very easy for them to just walk over the hallway and give some feedback on the product. And they're excited to give feedback on the product. So we learned that engaged users are easier to get user feedback, and they give more effective user feedback. Now you can say, is it a correlation or a causation situation? You know, are these users the people that would be coming to a meetup anyways? And my answer is it may be one or the other, but for us, we were already doing these meetups, and we already had this community, and it gave us this incredibly quick and efficient way to support product. So we started to go a little nuts, and we've expanded these programs of supporting product further and further. So not only are we providing opportunities for in-person user feedback with the product teams, but we're also starting to capture video feedback that we're sending to our teams that can't come to the United States or to the New York office to meet with these users. It's also given us a really quick and effective way to do beta testing. Recently, a product team reached out to me and said, we need 100 beta testers in a week. And I said, easy. That's simple, thanks to our community. Now we have product teams visiting us almost weekly. And actually, we would probably have more than one product team a week, but I just can't handle more than that at this point. And we've started doing meetups that are focused on specific products as well, where we sit down with the product manager and we say, what are your goals and how can we create a user meetup that helps you reach those goals? And we started getting absolutely rave reviews from the product teams. And here's a couple that I put up here. But at the core of a lot of these, what has made us very proud is that most of the feedback we're getting is that the feedback we're providing to the product teams is meaningfully impacting the product. We are changing the way that we edit and roll out new products because of this feedback. And we hear that every single week now from the different product teams. So what we found was we've become an invaluable resource to product. Everyone's fighting over who gets to come to New York and meet with our users. And because of that energy and excitement from the product teams, it's become infectious to the entire company. Because it's not just the product teams that need to know what our users need and think. It's also marketing and PR and social media. So through this outreach and through these programs, we've become the ultimate authority on the Wix user at our company. So we're almost like an advisory board to every single department in the company. And we've become crucial and invaluable on so many levels. Every single department now depends on us and experiences and conveys our value to us. So I think, though, that while we found this way to show that we are meaningfully impacting products, I think it's an ongoing conversation. And I think it's one that we need to keep having with each other, sharing ideas, sharing inspiration. This is my Twitter handle, and this is the Wix and Wix Lounge Twitter handles. Reach out to me anytime and say, hey, Ashley, you mentioned this idea about supporting product. Can you tell me a little bit more? Or, hey, I actually found this. I would love to keep continuing this conversation because I think events like this give us such an amazing opportunity to learn and to continue to innovate in how we're showing our value as community managers. So thank you so much to all of you for listening, and have a great rest of the day.